Helsa. I had no intentions on doing another video today until I seen a post that was put up about a guy that was in a prison, and he was a Oodinist, and it got me to thinking that a lot more could be done to help our brothers and sisters who are still behind the wire or the walls. I know from my experience, Oodinism, Wotanism, and Asatru is something that the majority of the prison systems don't want. They don't want inmates, so to speak, learning about the history of their gods and their goddesses and learning about their culture. They don't want people who want to better their lives and try to make a difference. What happens is, if a person's never been to prison, then you have no earthly idea what is going on. Most will sit back and say, well, they deserve what they got. The prisons have to be like that. You just come up with excuses after excuses, comments after comments, and really you're talking about something that you have no earthly idea about. For all of us who have been in the prison system, we understand that you can walk into almost any federal prison or any state prison. You can walk into the chapel department. They will have everything that a Christian needs to practice his religion. There will be wall-to-wall books, videotapes, Bibles, cassette tapes. There will be people coming in. They will have services and classes that is unbelievable. Then you'll have the Muslims. The institution will provide them with everything they need. They get at least 2 to 3 days a week in the federal prison system. They have contact with outside sources. Then you have the Jewish community. They get everything they want. They get to celebrate the Sabbaths, the Passovers. They put, at least in the federal system, they put tents up for these guys. Then you get to the Native Americans. And the Native Americans pretty much get whatever they want. And you know what the hidden denominator or the hidden factor behind why they get whatever they want? It's because they have outside help. This is why they get whatever they want as soon as they start crying about it. They will get anything. They have outside help. They have outside resources. And what's even more crazier is that out of these 4 religions, the majority of their stuff is donated by other practitioners of their religion. But we come to Asatru, Oodinism, Wotanism. We are exempted from all of that. You can walk up into any chapel and you will find in the back of the chapel on a shelf, you might find about this much room for the Oodinist, Wotanist, and Asatru books. They might have some of the old Steve McNallen tapes, which are pretty good tapes, not putting them down. You will find videos, books in there by Valgard Murray and Asatru Free Assembly World Tree. You'll find this stuff, but it will be very, very small and outdated. When the inmate goes to the chapel to try to put forth a curriculum in order to practice the Oodinist religion or the Asatru religion, he will be shot down immediately. They will be labeled white supremacists, gang members. Every excuse will be presented in order to keep the inmates from learning their religion. But I'm here to tell you that it's much, much deeper than that. There's a hidden agenda behind why they won't let white inmates create Asatru groups. Some institutions will, but they're very limited of what they're allowed to have. And I'm just going to be honest, in the federal system, one of the reasons why they've been able to get what they have is because these brothers took stances in order to have what they have. But back to the underlining factor of why they can't have it. One of the most feared groups, and I'm fixing to put it out there, and let's be honest about it, and all you brothers and sisters who've been to prison, you know what I'm fixing to say is 100% fact. The main reason why they won't let Asatru really be established within the prison system is because one of the most feared races in the federal and state prison systems is whites. They don't want whites coming together. They fear that. They fear what happens when white men, white women come together and begin to learn and begin to study. They fear that. I've literally had officers, lieutenants tell me and other brothers that they could have 100 100 blacks stack up on a rec yard, 100 Mexicans stack up on a rec yard, and they don't care. But if they had 10 whites stack up on a rec yard, then they know they got issues. So let's be honest about what's going on. There's a psychology in prisons. And these psychologies, believe it or not, if you really stop and look at it, you understand that they don't want whites learning their culture and learning their history. They don't want this. They fear this. In the federal prison systems, the state prison systems, they fear white men and white women coming together and studying and educating themselves. Because let's be honest, some of the most fear-minded people in the federal and the state prison system are those whites who are racially conscious. And even if they're not racially conscious, they're conscious enough to know that what they have found, Asatru, Oodinism, and Wokenism, can change them. Now, there's some watching that's going to watch this video and you're going to swear up and down that I'm completely crazy. But unless you've been behind those fences, then you don't understand. And I'll bring up another point. They call Oodinist, Asatru, and Wokenist white supremacist, white power, white pride. Right? This is their reasoning for not wanting to give us representation. But they have no issue when the Nation of Islam, whose head man is a guy named Minister Farrakhan, they get books called the Message to the Black Man, which straight up calls white people devils. They get The Final Call. They get books called Torchlight of America. They get all these books, papers, videos. They get all this stuff sent in. And every bit of this stuff speaks ill of whites. So what we need to do is we need to create representation We need to support these prison ministries like the Oodinic Rite, Appalachian Pagan Ministry, Donna Donovan. Our group, the Hammer Heathens, Unfettered Prison Outreach. You have another group out in Colorado called Wotensvolk that also tries to help inmates and get them representation. If we're serious about helping our brothers and sisters, and we're serious about trying to promote our way of life, then we need to start doing something about it. And one of the biggest problems that I see is brothers and sisters getting out of prison and forgetting where they came from. I'm not saying that everybody that got out did that, but a large percentage do. They get out and they forget where they come from. They forget the struggles that we go through behind those fences, behind those walls. They forget that the cops would come up in our cells and shake our stuff down and take everything we have. But a member of the Christian group, the Muslim group, the Nation of Islam group, the Jewish group can be right next door, and they will skip their cell and they will hit every white boy that plays or participates in any form of Oodinism, Wotanism. When I seen that video, it bothered me. It pissed me off, because I know from my own experience, 21 years behind that fence, behind them prison walls in federal prison, and I know the struggles that they go through. And I can only speak for myself. I'm one of those ones who came out, and I still reach back to these people. I still send them literature. I still try to help them, because I can't never forget my foundation. That's where I come from. I'm appealing. I've done this before without a lot of feedback, a lot of promises, but no actual feedback. Those promises fell short. Matter of fact, didn't even happen. But I'm appealing to all my brothers and sisters who've been in prison. Reach out to some of these organizations that's trying to help these brothers and sisters in prison. Reach out to them. Help them be able to create representation. Help them to be able to create legal defenses for these brothers and these sisters behind this wall. Because there's no reason why federal and state prisons can give all these other religions anything they want, even religions that are geared upon a race. They give them everything they want. But those few little white boys or white girls, whatever they want to call them, those few who are just trying to better their lives, they're trying to get off dope, they're trying to create a new path for themselves, they're trying to be better citizens to their communities, and they're being hindered. And I'm just going to be honest, they're only being hindered for one reason: because the federal and state prison system fear whites coming together and becoming educated. They fear it. And it won't change. We need to, and I know this is going to piss some people off. As most know, I don't care. But another thing we need to start doing, we need to start putting out literature that expresses the fact that Oodinism, Wotanism, and Asatru is not a gang. We don't put bolts on us. We don't have to do that. We don't have to put Swazis on us. We don't have to do any of that. And all these gangs that hide behind Oodinism, hide behind Wokenism, and hide behind Asatru? We need to start putting out literature that explains this stuff. Because if the only people in the prison that's telling the chapel, like, we're not gang members, is the inmates, they're not going to believe them anyway. So it falls on us who are on the street to try to help these brothers and help these sisters. Because remember, some of the strongest, and I don't care what nobody says, some of the strongest people, Asatru, Oodinist, Wokenist members that have come out of prison have started communities. Some of the best practitioners I know, and some of the smartest I know, were brothers and sisters who did time. And I personally believe because they've been tried and tested. They have literally fought. I'm talking about with these to have the right to practice that religion. So they've been tried and tested and found true. Let us not forget where we came from. Please don't forget our brothers and sisters that are still behind that wire in the Zog, the belly of the beast, trying to better themselves. It's up to us to help them in there and when they come out. So I will say it again. Support the Woden's Vote Ministries. Support the Appalachian Pagan Ministry, Donna Donovan. Support the Odinic Rite. Any organization that's trying to help out. And while we're in the process and while I'm thinking about it, let's try to shut down all these Oodinist and Wokenist and Asatru groups that's trying to make money off these people. With that said, hell's up.